Adding sugar to a wash, pros vs cons. Let's do it. How's it going, chasers? I hope you're having a kick-ass week. I'm Jesse and this is Still at the Channel, all about chasing the craft of home distillation and making it a legitimate hobby. So guys, adding sugar to your wash. So you've got a fruit wash, an all grain wash, whatever it happens to be. You're doing something, you're putting flavor into that wash, you're making it with something other than sugar, obviously, and you're trying to decide whether to add some table sugar or something like that into the wash to stretch it a little bit further. This is the video for you. Let's talk about the pros and cons. First of all, let's talk about flavor. This seems to be something that comes up a whole lot, and we're going to talk about the flavor addition or the flavor degradation that the sugar wash adds itself. So for me, this is probably the smallest impact here if you're adding it in smaller percentages. So I do get a specific flavor from table sugar, and it's really hard to describe. For me, it's kind of somewhere between a flavor and a mouthfeel. It feels a little almost insipid, I guess. It's a little thinner, it's a little more piercing. It is, yeah, I find it really hard to describe it. If you know what I mean, please guys, try and describe it down in the comment section below. I'll try my hardest at some other point in time to describe that to you. But yes, I do get that from sugar, when it's all sugar or when you add sugar to another wash. But the thing is, if you're getting, like to 1065 with grain, and then you're bumping it up to 1070 with sugar, I mean, sure, you're gonna add some of that sugariness to the final product, but it's not going to be a huge thing. So that's kind of why I put it on the lower level here, because yes, it affects it, but it's not a huge deal. So before we go on to what I think the main disadvantage with sugar is, let's talk about the bonus. So the bonus is it's an easy way to bump up your ABV, it's an easy way to bump up your yield, it's an easy way to get a few more gravity points and get a few more percent in the wash so you can distill it, blah, 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 blah. Yes, I 100% agree with that, and I have been known to use it in the past as well. Just keep in mind, guys, keep in mind that the flip side to this is stay within the limits of your yeast, okay? So if you have a yeast that doesn't like going to super high gravities, don't push it to super high gravities. For almost everything, for most things, I aim at about 1080 tops, maxed out. That's sort of where I go to. I mean, yeah, if you're using a specific yeast that likes to go higher, sure, you can go higher, bump it up to 15% if you really want to, but then you start getting into the discussion about, is there any advantage to that yeast other than higher ABV? And of course, it's going to depend on the goal that you're going for, at that time. Do you just want to make a buttload of relatively neutral spirit to run through the still a whole bunch of times and end up making gin with? Okay, yeah, sure, go a little bit higher, but once again, if we're making whiskey or we're making a brandy or whatever it happens to be, and the number one goal is flavor, I would seriously caution you about choosing a yeast that just its sole purpose in life is to rip through as much sugar as possible as fast as possible. So, the last thing that I want to talk about is the dilution of flavor. And to me, this is the main thing that I'll contemplate when deciding to use sugar or not. So here's the way that I think about it, guys. I'm going to give you the really simple version first, and then we're going to talk about why it's not quite that simple. So let's imagine that you're making, let's talk bourbon, because I've got corn here. We're going to use this much corn, and we're going to put it into a wash, and then we're going to distill it. The corn is the sugar, the corn is the flavor, as well as, yes, yeast and blah, 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 blah. I get it. But the main flavor that we're going after here is the corn, right? So we're going to put this much flavor into the wash, and then we're going to get a certain amount of alcohol from it, and then you're going to end up with a product that tastes of corn to some degree, right? If you go and add a whole bunch of sugar onto this, we're increasing the yield of the product. We're increasing the amount of alcohol we can take out of a certain size wash, or one fill of the pot and your still, whichever way you want to look at it. But we haven't increased the flavor. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So we've got, let's call this one flavor unit. And if we don't add sugar to it, we've got one flavor unit in 1 unit of alcohol, right? So if we do something crazy and we add, we double the gravity points with sugar, now we've got one flavor unit in 2 units of volume. Do you see where I'm going with this? So what I'm saying is you're not adding flavor, but you are adding volume at the other end. And the only conclusion you can come to is that you're diluting that flavor. That is the main thing that I consider when deciding whether or not to add sugar to a wash. But, it's a little bit more complex than that, because let's say we made a wash with corn and we distilled it, and then we took that product off and we forgot about that product, and we were left with the back set in the still. If we then came along and put, another couple of liters of neutral straight into that still and ran it again, we would get a product that doesn't taste completely neutral. We would get some corn flavor carrying over from that, right? I don't think anyone would argue with that, but I also don't think that anyone would argue the fact that that second run, the run that was augmented with neutral spirit, it's not going to be as flavorful as the first one. I think we can agree. If you think, the exact amount of flavor that carries over, I think, is going to depend on a whole lot of different things, the type of still you're running, the wash itself, the amount of neutral you added in, of course. But in theory, I think we can all agree on that, right? So I don't think it is as simple as saying if we took this much corn and then added the equivalent amount in gravity points of sugar to it again, I don't think it's as simple as saying that we would halve the flavor. I think it's kind of like it's kind of more that you would get about 3/4 of the flavor that you would if you just used all corn. With that being said, I need to say a huge thank you to the Patreons. Thank you so much, Patreons. I cannot do this stuff without you. So thank you so very much, guys. I appreciate it. Just so you know, to team, I have new Glencairn glasses with the Chase the Craft logo on it. They're going to be available soonish. I'm waiting for stock to get here so I can photograph it and get it up on the website, so on and so forth. Patreons, you're going to have first stab at this. I've got no idea how long it's going to take for these things to sell out. There's 75 of them, and when they're gone until I can order more. So just heads up, Patreons, you get first dibs on this. Cool. All right. If you're finding value in these videos and you'd like to help contribute to the channel, you can go to chasethecraft.com/support to find out all the different ways that you can help out. One of them being, if it's right for you, of course, Patreon. All right, guys. So to sum it up, yes, I think adding sugar to a all grain or to a fruit wash or whatever it happens to be is a completely viable solution. If you're adding it in smaller percentages, adding an extra 5% or something on in terms of the gravity points that you're getting, I don't think it's going to change the flavor profile a whole lot. I do think it's going to start degrading the amount of flavor that you get at the end. That's my view on it. I haven't done extensive testing on it, but from what I have done, that's the conclusion that I've got to. Do you have comments? Do you have something to add? Do you think I'm completely full of it? By all means, go ahead and drop a comment in the comments section down below. If this video has helped you out, give me a thumbs up. I would thoroughly appreciate that. Make sure you subscribe down below as well if you want to get more videos like this in your feed. And I will catch you next time, guys. Keep on chasing the craft. See ya.